one of the best ways that we self-sabotage is like, well, I can't do it all the way or do it the right way
Yep.
and so then we don't do anything at all. And
Yep.
that's not
Yes.
courage. That's not self-care at all.
I was on autopilot, and I look back and I think I suffered as a result of that. My family suffered as a result of that. My relationship suffered as a result of that. I'm now in a spot that I'm like, I'm going to make it weird. I'm going to tell you that I care about you.
How much better would the world be if we all just like embraced our weird and just all the excitement that we have? And I yearn for that. I yearn for everyone to have that. I really do. Welcome to Courage is Built Here, the podcast. I'm Justine Froelker, licensed professional counselor, author, speaker, and corporate trainer. Here, we bring my Courage is Built Here curriculum to life and community. Each week, I invite a guest to walk one of the 5 courageous pathways with me through authentic, sometimes tough, sometimes hilarious conversations. No performance, no polish, just real people practicing real courage with grit, grace, and a whole lot of love. Hi, friends. Welcome back to the Courage is Built Here podcast. Today, we have Pathway 2, Embody Again, how to take care of yourself. So it's kind of a quick stop in the full Courage is Built Here curriculum. And it was a stop in the courage work that I wasn't willing to not put into the work, especially after being in the corporate space for the last 7 years at this point. I've been in traditional mental health and personal development for over 25 years. The last 7 of them, though, in the corporate space. And the more and more I worked with organizations, teams, leaders, the more I learned that people I knew this because I was getting your messages on my Instagram and stuff like that from people, but like people, we're not taking very good care of ourselves. You put everyone above yourself. You show up and follow through for everyone except you. When in reality, I'm not sure where you're giving from if you're not first showing up and following through for yourself, because you can't give from an empty well. And actually, I do know where you're giving from. You're giving from judgment, resentment, anger. You're so tired, and you might even be pretty sick because, well, the body keeps score. And so in the courage work, Pathway 2 is all about like foundations of health. How are you caring well for yourself in the foundations of health? How are you eating and drinking water and moving your body and sleeping and having awe, wonder, delight, presence in your life? We also talk about things like vagus nerve and central nervous system and breath work and things like that. We talk about routines, morning routines and nighttime routines. And I love teaching all these little tidbits of how to do it. Because, well, I taught the work from, my whole career, and I still got really sick because I really wasn't caring well for me. And what I did do, I did from hustle and striving, and because I had to, I don't even know. And I still got really, really sick. And I truly do think I didn't have to get as sick as I got. And it's why when you meet me now, as we'll talk about in this episode, I am weird. I have created a really weird, amazing life that I love. You think it's weird. I just call it courage. I just call it the life that I want to live. It's slower paced. It's from the foundation of love and not hustle. It is a lot of routine. It is very boundaried. And I was forced into it because I got really, really sick, even though I had been teaching it for years. And in today's episode, you're going to hear about that. Like, you're going to meet my friend Gretchen Pettet. She's in the talent and development space. Gretchen is truly one of my favorite people. And we talk a lot about grief in this episode. And so, because her catalyst for finally showing up for herself was the loss of her mom. And we talk a lot about all these different ways that you can make it easy, use a tool to get these things into your life to care well for yourself, because it's the only chance you have of actually showing up and caring well for others, the people you live with and love and the people you work with and lead. You first have to care well for you, because you can't give what you don't have. And so I can't wait for you to listen to this conversation. It was just a true joy, which Gretchen is. And I'm so, so grateful for her in my life and in my work. So let's welcome Gretchen to the podcast. All right. Welcome, Gretchen, to the Courage is Built Here podcast. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I'm so you are like, of like all the guests so far, I think I've recorded 25 episodes when we're recording this. And so I
Wow.
think you're going to be like literally just a couple that have actually been through the full Courage is Built Here curriculum. So
Yay.
you
I
kind
feel
of have this like
special to
little
have experienced
little
it.
in. So I'm kind of excited.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah. Ha-
All
Thank you.
right.
Happy to be here. Grateful to have experienced the program. So excited to talk about it.
I'm excited. All right. So I'm going to start you off with a question that I begin everyone off with based on the pathway that they
Okay.
chose to talk about. So when
Yeah.
you think about courage, most especially through that lens of pathway to embody again, how to take care of
Yeah.
ourselves, is
Yeah.
there a moment or a story that comes up for you?
Yeah. Yeah. I chose it for that exact reason. So I think I shared with you years ago that I guess it was 4 years now. We lost my mom suddenly.
Yep.
And we were kind of navigating through that and trying to figure out how do you go through grief
Right.
while still being a mom and being a professional and doing the work. And I think historically, I might have been a little bit of a doubting Thomas, if you will, about the importance of self care. I mean, I was driven, accomplished, busy raising my children, being a wife, running a business, working full time. And something had to give through that process. And the timing of being introduced to your work and Brene Brown's work. And I finally was like, listen, I have to try this. And it felt strange in the evening to say, I'm going upstairs. And I'd be going upstairs to reflect or to meditate or to even just sit by myself and
Mhm.
kind of remedy what I was feeling with what I was experiencing. And I will say that, it's so unexpected. Like, my sleep got better, my diet got better, my energy got better. I still obviously deal with grief and the loss of my mom, and I still have my days. I mean, the timing of this is so good because I think sometimes we get a little lazy with our self-care
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
reminding myself of how important it is and how important that courage is to carve out time.
Yep.
It's really been a life changer for
Yeah.
me.
I l- I love how you put that though, because I think you're not alone in it. I mean, I do it and I teach the work for a living, for goodness sakes. But I think especially working moms, but and
Yeah.
everybody, we have this like, well, like I have all these roles that I have to play to everybody else. I have all these other people that I have to take care of. I have like these things that I have to do. I have this big job, like these things. Like, who has time for self care? Are you kidding me?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then
And
it
we've
is
just got
true that like
increasingly, yeah,
right, like I think something will have to give.
something has to give. And for me it wasn't even anything important. It was the wasted time on my phone, for example, or and
Ooh,
sometimes it meant leaving my family, like if they were in the living room, but recognizing that taking care of myself was really taking care of them as well. And
ooh,
we're so busy. We're so busy now, and I think sometimes that, I mean, I am like your classic extrovert. And I remember the very first time I went to yoga, probably 20 years ago, I was like, well, nope, this isn't for me. And even
mm,
through this process, I made my way back to yoga. And I think sometimes it's about the timing of it and really being open
mhm,
to or exploring those things that are going to serve you well. And at least for me, I don't, I yeah, I wish people, even this is so unexpected and I don't know where to point the finger, but I actually even lost some weight during that time. And people were like, what did you do? And I
yeah,
said, I honestly think I just started being mindful about my time. Sleeping better, I think, made such a big difference. You sleep
yeah,
better, you're willing to exercise more, you're willing to
mhm,
drink the water, you're willing to get up a little bit earlier. And it was just,
for
it's not,
sure.
that was never the intent or the
Yeah,
expected outcome, but holy cow, like at the end of the day, it's like, yep, I carved this time out
yeah,
and was brave in doing so, and I feel different. I feel better. I
Right.
feel more at peace, more at ease, more
Uh,
productive. It wasn't
yeah.
just the calming of the grief. It was also the response really in everything else. And for me, I didn't expect that. I
Mm.
didn't know that slowing down would create a space for more or better.
Yeah.
And I think that was the aha for me.
hmm That is a I used to remember when I was in private practice working with clients, like, and I would say, like, I know I'm asking you to add things to an already full plate, right?
Yeah,
Like, I know that. And I do it every time I work with, leaders. I'm asking, I know
yeah,
I'm asking you to take extra time to do these things. And I think I promise, because I've seen it over and over and over. When you make that time, you create more
yeah,
time because you feel
you do.
there's only 24 hours in a day, and yet, like, but you expand your bandwidth and your energy and all of that stuff,
All
and
of
so
it.
it is, like, that piece of, like, I'm adding something to my plate that I don't feel like I have room for, and at the same time, I there isn't almost a level of trust that we have to take, or even just courage because it's risk, that you maybe hope and pray that it ends up
Yeah.
adding more space to your plate or bandwidth or energy.
And I think it's so important for leaders also to model that. That was part
Oh,
of it, not to go too deep into my mother's death. One of the things I kind of realized when I was reflecting on her life is that she spent a lot of time taking really great care of other people. She was a leader, she was a manager. People loved her. People she'd managed 40 years ago would be like, she was my best boss ever. And
oh my
singularly, the
gosh.
thing I think she would never do was take care of herself. And I remember looking at my daughters, all of whom at the time were college and high school, and thinking, I don't want them to say the same thing about me. I don't want
Yeah,
them to
yeah,
mourn me at 68, no less, and be like, well, she never carved out the time. She
yeah.
just went. And so I think leaders are exactly the same when their people see
Mhm,
them invest in themselves that same way. It's like, oh, well, if it's good enough for Mr. Smith or whoever,
mhm.
I guess maybe that's something I should look at.
That's so true. Well, like, when we model the work, that's our strongest tool, right?
It is. It is. And to show up in a
Every time.
workplace now, I think about, I think so often we leave so much of ourselves at the door. We talk in your
Mhm.
program and
Yep,
everything I read about connection and belonging and
yep.
authenticity, and we're just not there yet. And so if this is
Mhm.
one thing, I have my boss now will be like, "Do you mind if I walk while we're on our call?" And I'm like, "No, please do, because
Love it.
then that gives me permission to walk while I'm on our call."
Beautiful.
And so, I just think about if we could all show up that way. Um, it, engagement, productivity, if even if it's just
Yeah,
from the business side of things, it's an
yes.
investment in ourselves, which is an investment in the company and really has,
Mhm.
great
Uh-huh.
returns. And that's the byproduct, in my opinion, because there's so much more
Yes.
value on a personal level. Yeah,
Yep, that's so true. When you made these changes, like, and in reality, Gretchen, you made them out of necessity to survive grief,
I
right?
did.
Like, I mean,
Yeah,
right? I mean,
very
and I
much
think,
so.
gosh, I think so many of us end up, it's it's something forces us to do it. When you had all of these byproducts of it for yourself, like your sleep improved, you became more mindful when you're eating, all these things. What were the what were the natural consequences of caring better for yourself at home and at work? Like, in those
Yeah,
spaces. Like, what were the consequences that the like how did it relate to the
yeah,
connections in your life and in all the different spaces that you are in?
yeah. I really feel like that time on my own, I had adopted a journaling practice, and not, I think people so often think journaling is I'm going to sit down and I'm going to write 4 pages of reflection. And most of my journaling just ended up being list making, and what do I want to be, or what did I do today that I don't want to repeat, kind of stuff. And for
Yeah.
me, the end result, the byproduct, because it was never what I set out to do, is I think my relationships got better. I started being more true to myself, and standing up for myself more and setting boundaries. And I remember at one point reading the line somewhere. I'd started, one of the things I journaled were things I wanted to add to my vocabulary. And one of the lines I'd read was, "That sounds like sarcasm. Tell me what you really meant to say."
Mm.
I had teenage daughters. That one came in handy. Right, but really it's just, it's like, it was almost like expectation setting that just say it, and the flip side of that is I got more comfortable saying some things that I probably, wouldn't have otherwise said either, and so,
Mhm.
there's no measure of, "Oh, now I have a higher sense of belonging, now I have a," but it definitely in terms
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
connection, and relationships, and at the very least, when I reflect back again on my children, and I had the honor and privilege of eulogizing my mom, and the
Yeah.
result of that was I really enjoyed that process, and I think it kind of set me on this path. I also have since, and my whole family would be like, "Oh, of course she did." I've also since written what I want my eulogy to be, not in
Yes.
hindsight, but as a vision of this is what I
Yeah.
want people to say about me. And I'll be honest, when
I
I read
love it.
that list, I don't know that those are things my kids would have said about me earlier. I was just kind of like
Oh.
letting things slide, and I wasn't, and I don't want to say standing up for myself because that's not it, but I remember thinking, people who knew me professionally might say that I was brave or that I was driven. My kids didn't see that. Like they saw a totally different
Mm.
mom. And I really like that bravery and courage. I don't, I want to show that to them. I mean, I have all daughters. They need to see that in me. And
Yeah.
I look back professionally, I think it was part of, I do think that I've demonstrated some bravery through the years. I had to be willing to demonstrate that same level of courage at home with the relationships that mattered most as I was willing to do in the workplace. And,
Oh.
I don't know why that, I don't know why, why wasn't that the case? I don't know. I think it's just, you just get so into autopilot and
Right.
go, 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 and, I had 3
Yeah.
babies in 4 years in the early 2000s, and so you can imagine our last couple of
Right.
years have really been crazy. My youngest is just
Mhm.
now a freshman in college, and so I was on autopilot, and I look back and I think I suffered as a result of that. My family suffered as a result of that. My relationship suffered as a result of that. I mean, I'm now in a spot that I'm like, I'm going to make it weird. I'm going to tell you that I care about you. I saw a coworker at a football game on Saturday, and I went over, I gave him this great big hug, and I'm sure he was like, hi, but like I just really like I was so
Yeah.
excited to see him that like I don't I'm gonna like in all my weird glory. My 20-year-old told me a couple of weeks ago. She's like,
Freaking
"You're
love it.
really weird." I was like, thank
I
you
love
so
it.
much." And
Yep.
and I don't think in absence of this, I don't think I would have gotten there. I don't. It's
Mhm.
like just letting who I am
Yeah.
light up the room, good, bad, or indifferent. So
Uh-huh.
yeah,
That is I like well, first off, I like if oh gosh, oh my god, how much better would the world be if we all just like embraced our weird
I
and
know,
just all the
I
excitement
know.
that we have and like
Yep.
I just ugh, I
Yes.
yearn I yearn for
Yes.
that. I yearn for everyone to have
I,
that. I really do. Because you're so much happier and like and yet at the same time, like even when as you're describing your weird, it's just joy and well-being is what it
yeah.
is, which is sad that we
It
consider
is.
that weird in our
Yeah.
world, but I think we do.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. We do.
you you walked into that, you embraced it, you grabbed it, you lived into it, and it was a direct result of finally caring well for yourself. And like when I think about
Yep.
my like
It was.
where my season of my life is like me too. Like I like no apologies over here anymore. Like you don't have to
Mm-mm.
understand my life or like my life.
Yeah.
I love it. Like I created it
100%.
and it was because I almost died because I didn't create it. And something made me get there, but it was through actually walking out this work and for real caring well and loving myself first.
That's 100%. It's so overused, but the analogy of being on the airplane and putting the
Yep.
oxygen on yourself first. Like, if I
Yep.
could do any favors for my daughters, it would be that they get here far before I did, far
Yeah.
before, yeah. I laugh all the time about when I'm an old woman, I will wear purple. And I'm like, I have never resonated. That's never resonated more strongly with me because it really is about authenticity and joy and celebrating kind of the day to day. And I to your point, how much different would the world we live in be if we were all living like that? If we were all
Yeah.
intentional about
Mhm.
seeing things and
Mhm.
taking lessons from, the universe whenever
Yeah.
whenever they show up. I don't know. I guess it's, that's my own little way of being weird. And I think I'm better for it. And I honestly think I'm a better mom, a better spouse, a better
Yeah.
employee as a result of it as
Right.
well.
Right. Well, because you're not well, when you really do show up and care well for yourself, you're like you've said autopilot multiple times, right? Like I was on autopilot.
Yeah.
It was just go, go, go. Like
Yeah.
when you really do show up well for yourself, autopilot, it's off the table. Even if like my day looks the same day in and day out or whatever, like it's still, I'm more present in it because I'm serving myself first. I'm filling up
Mhm.
first. I'm not giving from that empty well. So it does, like there isn't an autopilot, which life's too
Mhm.
freaking short to be on autopilot for
Yeah.
God's sakes.
Yeah.
Now, there's going to
Absolutely.
always be seasons of our lives for sure. And I think especially for moms, like there will be seasons that like that's your only choice because you're in, well, toddler trenches or teenage trenches, whatever, right? Let's be honest. There are a lot. And so like,
100%.
right? Like, and you're just trying to survive the day. And I think it's like, for me, some on the outside of that, sometimes like, no, wait a minute. I really, moms, I need you to take better care of yourselves. Like,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that you're not so resentful or tired or so
Yeah.
that you don't get sick or it doesn't take something catastrophic for you to like realize that you
Yeah.
have to do this for you first. And that's the greatest parenting thing that you can provide your children with.
I know immediately when I've lost my rhythm and my connection to, these last few months for us, I had a daughter getting married, a daughter
Yep.
going back to college as a sophomore, and then a freshman as well. And it's just been chaos. We
Yeah.
had a graduating senior last year, so of course we had prom and then graduation parties and all of the stuff that goes with that. And I'm just now kind of getting back into that spot where I have to be really intentional about,
Yep.
for example, we were out of town yesterday, and my husband actually left Friday, and I said, I want to be home. I want to stay
Yep.
here. I want to pet my dog. I want to read my book. I want to clean my desk so I can journal, for example. Like even
Yeah.
little things. Like I was just throwing
Yeah.
my mail on the desk and now there was no
Yeah.
spot to do it. And I was feeling so out of sorts. And I
Mhm.
don't know if other people notice, but I notice it in my work. I notice it in,
Mm.
in my involvement. And, I'll miss a board meeting or whatever. And it's like, Gretchen, you know how to fix this. And so,
Yep.
really, yesterday's rainy day was like the perfect
Yeah.
gift because I did nothing. I took my dogs outside, and that was the end
Yeah.
of what I
I love
did,
it.
and it
Yeah.
felt so good, and today has been
Mhm.
much more productive, and again, that's not
Right.
productivity isn't the measure, but I I
Mm-mm.
I wanna do good work, and when I'm
Mhm.
otherwise not at my best, I struggle. I struggle to get there, and in the moment, I don't necessarily realize, "Oh, it's because you haven't been for a walk. Did you have any water,
Yep.
Gretchen? Have you slept at all?"
Right. Right. When you have like when it is the seasons that it is just a lot, like you've been in a season, is there it's a twofold question. Is there a practice of yours that tends to fall off right away? But and is there a practice of yours that no matter what the season is, it cannot, will not fall off at all? Like it's kind of I
Yeah.
want both answers.
Yeah. So the easiest one is the one that falls off. It's almost always
Uh-huh.
exercise, like physically going to the gym, actually walking outside. Um, so that's definitely the one that
Yeah.
falls off. Two things that I'm pretty consistent about regardless
Yeah.
are reading. I'm an avid reader and it really is. I read a lot of nonfiction,
Me too.
but I also will throw in fiction occasionally for a break. So I had resurrected my reading
Yeah.
habit in this process, and I've been pretty consistent about that.
Yep.
The other thing is I have a meditation app, and I don't know, some people might find it cheating, but there's a commute meditation that I absolutely love. There's a walking
Yep.
meditation, and those make it so much easier for me to just be
Mhm.
present. I say,
Yeah.
yeah, take my little hyperactive brain, and if I'm on a
Yeah.
walk and not focused on something, then I'm like, you know,
Yep.
troubleshooting, solving
Yep.
problems, worrying, filling my brain
Yeah.
with just not getting the benefit of the
Uh-huh.
silence and my presence, etc.
Yeah.
So I think those
Yeah.
two are the two that have kind of hung on for
Okay.
me.
Okay. Well, and like there is that element to like one. that is not cheating for meditation. Like, because like I how many times do we self-sabotage ourselves because we don't actually do the thing or use the tool that helps us do the practice, right? Like,
Yes.
it's okay to make it easy. You don't have 30 minutes for a walk, fine, do 10 minutes. You really
Yes.
struggle to sit down and be quiet and present, okay, download the app. There's a ton of them.
Yeah.
And there's a
Yep.
ton of different kinds of meditations on that app, and do the one that it feels easiest. I think that's okay.
100%. I also actually even just downloaded a journaling app, an AI journaling
Ooh,
app, and
okay.
I really love it because it will reflect back to me. And I'll tell you, I know that some people would be really hesitant to use an AI tool, but it's clearly listening because I had an event
Yeah.
probably 2 weeks ago, and it said, Gretchen, your tendency to overestimate the commitment of something because I really sometimes I can't get started or it's like, oh, I don't want to do that because,
Yeah.
and it's has reared its head again. And then it offers like
I love
recommendations
it.
for goal setting. And so I've really enjoyed
I
it.
love
And what
it.
I love about it is now I can journal while I walk. And so I,
Right.
I appreciate the validation that the tools aren't necessarily
I like it.
cheating because
Yep.
it's
No.
I love the process, but I don't always make the time for it. So,
Right. Right. I do. I'm gonna come back to the make it easy button every single time. Like,
yeah.
because we're awesome at self-sabotage. And one of the best ways that we self-sabotage is like, well, I can't do it all the way or do it the
Mhm.
right way. Or
Yeah.
and so then we don't do anything at all. And
Yep.
that's not
Yes.
courage. That's not self-care at all. And so find the tool, make it easy, make it accessible. What's that look like for you? And also know that we're totally allowed to change our minds because you change, your weeks change. Like, you can be like, that worked for me for a while. It doesn't work for me anymore. I need to try something different.
I do miss the physical act for me. I miss the physical act of journaling, but
The
the
writing.
benefits of it outweighed. And
Yeah.
so sometimes what I'll do is I'll
Right.
actually take, some of what it captured, even the goals, and I'll write them in my to-do
Oh,
list
yeah.
for the week so I don't lose sight of it.
I
So I
love
get
it.
a little bit of both. But it's exactly, that's exactly what my AI journal had said is like, oh, well, I can't do it perfectly, so I just want to do it. I literally have a post-it note on my desk that says you're only required to start. You're only required to start. And I think,
Right.
tools like that
So good.
facilitate starting when you otherwise are like,
Yep.
what do I do now? What do I do now?
Exactly. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. That's so good. That is so good.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. You ready for your last two questions?
Yeah. Oh,
All
yes.
right. So the question that you know is coming, when did courage look different than you expected it to? And what did it teach you?
Mm. When did courage look different? So I really do think after my mom died, I hate to tie everything to that experience, but
I
it was such a
understand though.
pivotal.
Yeah.
It was really pivotal. And
Yep.
I remember I was a contractor at the time and I remember thinking, "Oh my gosh, I've got to get back to work because if you're not working, you're not billing, and if you're not billing, I mentioned I had, kids going to college. It was like
Yeah.
hanging over my head. And so at that point, after some reflection and some consideration and really being truthful about what I needed, what my courage looked like in that moment was actually returning to full-time work. And one of those was so I'd have time to grieve, but the other was so I would have that built-in community that I missed so deeply through the grieving process. And
Oh,
I had always thought courage is doing your own thing. It's having your own business. And for me it was the no,
well,
I gotta show up differently now for me and for
yeah.
my family. Like I didn't like
Yeah.
that hanging over my head. And if I hadn't taken the time to implement all these practices
Yeah.
and would I have had the time in my own business? And so I think that was again the
True.
result of losing my mom and really reflecting on what do I want them to say about me? What do I want them how do
Uh-huh.
I want to show up
Right.
now and
Oh, that's
when they're
good.
eulogizing me, I guess. Yeah.
I love it.
You
Oh,
know.
that's so good. That they're gonna be like, so this is the one that mom wrote for us, and then this is, and we've
I
added some thoughts to it.
I hope they add to it. That's my goal. I hope they read it and then they add to it. Like at least
Yep.
it is.
Perfect.
It's a funny little thing though, because for some reason in my family, I remember, you know, being at my grandfather's funeral, who died a couple years before my mom, and being
Yeah.
like, "Is nobody going to eulogize him?" We were from a family of people
Mhm.
that wasn't something we did, and I just remember thinking,
Yeah.
it made it harder. I'm like, I could have done that. And so it really was a privilege and an honor to do it. And I was
Yeah.
happy. And that was a moment of courage too, to say, hey, I want to write
100%.
something and speak it at church. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Gosh, I love it. So good. All right. You ready for your surprise question? Okay. All right. What is one practice that helps you live fully in that embody again pathway of courage? One practice.
One practice. Gosh, is there only one?
Mhm.
I think it's got to be the meditation piece. You know,
Uh-huh.
I'm a fast talker, a fast walker, I'm a
Yep.
busybody, all and they
Me
are
too.
things that have served me well professionally. And so really
Wow.
that calming down and being centered. And I remember one time, like when I was first starting this meditative practice, and reading about how a lot of us breathe in reverse, instead of like, I can't even remember that. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm
Yep.
doing that. And so once I was sitting with and aware of my breath, I'd
Mhm.
never paid any attention to my breathing. And
Yep.
I mean, I remember after that, I was supposed to be having an injection like for pain management. And
Yeah.
the doctor said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm just doing box breathing." He's like, "Your heart rate is so low." And I was like, "Yay, it's working."
Yep.
Like he thought I was like
Yeah.
in bad shape because my heartbeat
Yeah.
was dropping, and it was steady. It wasn't
Right.
dropping. And I thought
Yeah.
it was so funny. I was like, "Quit talking to me. I'm counting to 4." And I will be the first to tell you, like, for me, that
So,
always, I mean,
yep.
it just would have been something that I was like, really breathing. Like, I didn't
I know.
recognize it until I kind of went there in desperation. I'm like, dang it, it works. I remember being
Yep.
like, it is
So
right.
true.
It works. It
Oh my
works.
god.
So,
That's so
yeah.
true. I mean, we're terrible. I mean, for the system that we do automatically and can control, for the most part,
Yes.
we're terrible at it.
Yes.
We're terrible at it. Like
Isn't that
we
the
are an
truth?
oxygen. It is like, and it creates oxygen deprivation, which means our brain's
Yep.
not firing the way it's supposed to. Our body's not healing as quickly as it
Mhm.
can. And really, it's just like take several deep breaths, and your
Yeah.
whole life will change.
I'd never even paid attention to my breathing. It was something,
Yeah.
to your point about the automatic process, I'd never even
Hmm.
considered.
Yep.
Maybe when I was running and I was like out of breath, I might
Yeah.
have been, but not on the day to day. And I will, going to sleep at night,
Yep.
driving, getting in my car. I even have this great little GPS app that has the personality is a meditation. Like I think she's from the Calm app. And she'll be like, "Oh, you missed your turn. Now's a great time to take a deep breath." Like on it. So
Oh my god, I love it. Perfection. Oh my
another
gosh.
cheat, another tool, if you
Right.
will, to make it
It's
easier. And
another
yeah,
tool. It's another
it
tool to make
is.
it accessible and as easy as possible. It's so
100, and
good. Oh my
every
gosh.
time she says now is a great time to take a deep breath, I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I'm not taking it."
Mhm.
Like, it's the craziest thing. I'm like,
Yeah.
this is something I think about. It's something that I like has
Yep.
changed my life, and I still find myself holding my breath. I'm like, what on earth? So I think it's that intentionality of these
So good.
practices that, and that really is. I think
Yep.
that's probably it's at the heart of all of it. It's just about being really intentional.
Uh-huh. Yep. Because to live with courage means an intentional life. It's good.
100%.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's so good. Thank you,
Yes.
my friend. This
You're
was so good.
welcome.
Just as good
Thank
as I
you.
expected it to be.
I'm so
Where
glad.
can
I'm so
people
grateful for the
thank
opportunity.
thank you. Thank you, thank you. Where
Yeah.
can people find you if they want to connect with you?
Easiest way is going to be LinkedIn, Gretchen Pettet,
Okay.
LinkedIn, whatever. I don't even
Okay.
remember how the URLs
All
look,
right.
but yep, they're by my
Okay.
first and last name.
All right. And we'll link it in the show
Terrific.
notes. Thank you for making the time for this.
I love
Thank
it.
you for being
Of
you.
course.
I'm so, so, so grateful
Of
for you
course.
in my life.
Thank you. Same. Absolute same.
Thank you for listening to the Courage is Built Here podcast. Whether you're brand new to this work or living it out loud every day, I hope today was helpful, hopeful, and a reminder that you're not alone. What one bit of courage will you take from this episode, and how will you walk it out? If this episode encouraged you, share it with a friend, leave us a review, and please make sure you like and subscribe. New episodes come out every Wednesday on your favorite podcast platform and Fridays on YouTube. For more resources, head to JustineFroelker.com and click to my store. Because courage isn't a one-time thing, it's built right here, one small choice at a time, and especially between us.